The author flew back to New Zealand with a heavy heart. Upon returning, her friends in New Zealand came to visit and comfort her, gathering around a bonfire. It is a custom in New Zealand to light a bonfire to bid farewell to the deceased, she said. I gazed at the endless sea stretching all the way to South America, wondering where my Victoria was. Was she merely cold ashes and bones, or was she like a free spirit burning brightly? The sparks from the bonfire in the dock twirled and floated away, the red dots of embers and ash spiraling over the waves, flying towards the horizon. At that moment, I was certain she had transformed into a soul, a free soul. I would keep her alive in some form, along with all her vitality and positive energy. Then the author recalled the 3 years before little Victoria's passing, during which a Filipino maid at home was expelled. Victoria had a very close relationship with this maid, and she pleaded with the young maid, saying, "Don't go, don't go." But ultimately, the maid was taken away by the police. During these 3 years, the author herself faced workplace oppression, enduring significant verbal abuse and bullying, even experiencing suicidal impulses at that time. Victoria had a good friend in Singapore named Siwei. Siwei was a successful girl and had a great relationship with Victoria. However, Siwei suddenly moved to Australia, which left Victoria feeling particularly lost, as her circle of friends was shattered. The author said, I forgot to worry that Victoria was entering a new world, the world of adolescence. In this world, she would seek her own group, experience important life rituals like menstruation, first love, and exams, and maintain friendships on social media, while searching for her self-identity. When Siwei left, everyone cried, but I still saw little Victoria as that confident weekend mall queen, not realizing that without Siwei, my daughter was alone in the apartment building and at school, lagging behind her peers, excluded from the cool kids group. Little Victoria felt she couldn't fit into the school's social circle. The wealthy, attractive girls at school did not play with her. One class she particularly dreaded was art class. Although Victoria loved to draw, the teacher firmly stated, "You won't get high marks for your drawings. You have no talent, so drawing won't help you get into college. You should make video projects instead. It's easier to get high scores that way." Thus, she forced Victoria to create a video assignment. In the time leading up to her passing, Victoria was busy filming a project called Fear of Heights. She placed the camera on the windowsill of a stairwell in an apartment building, and the video showed Victoria appearing on screen, holding a napkin. As the camera zoomed in, the napkin had the words Fear of Heights written in red pen. As the camera pulled back, Victoria crumpled the napkin into a ball, held it in her hand, and extended her hand out the window. Leaning against the low protective wall, she blew a breath. The napkin ball flew up and drifted down. 2 days later, she jumped from the same spot. Victoria's art teacher had insisted she make this documentary solely for the possibility of getting a high score. 3 weeks later, they had to return to work. They needed to pay rent and support themselves, so both she and Malcolm had to go back to work. Before leaving for work, she said to Victoria, "Goodbye, dear." Everyone knows that for anyone who has lost a loved one, returning to normal life feels like a form of betrayal. How could I work normally after my daughter died? Working normally would mean betrayal. So in her heart, she told Victoria, "I'm sorry, Victoria." Victoria had loved writing diaries since childhood, starting with handwritten entries at 14, and later typing them on a computer around 16. Now the computer had been confiscated by the police, leaving only Victoria's original paper diaries at home. At this moment, the author began to reflect on whether she should read her daughter's diaries. Previously, a friend had quarreled with her daughter over reading her diary, believing that children's privacy should be respected. But now she thought that if she had peeked at her daughter's diary earlier, it might have helped her. She opened Victoria's diary, where she found her notes. In her diary, Victoria had expressed years ago that she had a choice to leave. The school had called them in for a meeting, and during the meeting, the counselor, Teacher C, suddenly exploded. Before even sitting down, Teacher C said to them, "I know you want to blame someone, but that someone won't be me." Previously, Teacher C had counseled Victoria 4 times, but had never alerted them to any psychological issues with her, and many of those counseling sessions were undocumented. Thus, the school's psychological counseling was unprofessional, lacking records, treatment plans, and parental notifications. One day, she suddenly felt as if she heard Victoria's voice calling her, saying, "Mom, go to the windowsill, Mom, go to the windowsill," directing her to the very spot where Victoria had jumped. Somehow, the beam here kept tempting me to follow Victoria and jump, as if saying, "That's right, jump," but I turned around, passing through the heavy door to the stairwell. At that moment I found them, those messages. Victoria had carved several long, thin lines into the plaster of the wall. Before jumping, Victoria had drawn some lines on the wall of that stairwell. I could recognize those lines because one end was drawn with a heart that Victoria often drew. I leaned in closer, looking at the other side of the scratch, and found a heart. I had seen her draw the same hearts in the blank spaces of her school notebooks. Below the heart, she had hastily carved a few words. "Goodbye, Mom." I gasped. Even in such dark times, little Victoria still remembered me. She had thought about it, and always wanted me to know that she loved me. One day, Malcolm, Victoria's dad, went shopping at a store they often visited for kitchenware and household goods. He insisted he saw Victoria. He said she was walking ahead, and that person was definitely her. But when he rushed over, he couldn't find her.